Now it's time to bring you today's perspective. And my guest today is a man whose latest book has been described as a masterly attempt to fully comprehend life. Sounds pretty complimentary. High praise for an author. Well, The Sisters is just out in English and it's coming out in French very shortly as well. Les Sœurs, direct translation. It's the creation of the award-winning Swedish writer Jonas Hassen Khemiri, who joins us now here on set. He's brought a copy of the book in as well, which is always good to have a proper, real copy. Tell us more about the book. First of all, it revolves, doesn't it, around the lives of three sisters. They have a Tunisian mother and a Swedish father. If I've got it right, that's the opposite to you, isn't it? The other way round, as it were.
Yes.
Your father's Tunisian, your mother's Swedish. And a curse that weighs on them. Tell us about it.
Well, I've always been fascinated with curses. And the book deals with their attempt to kind of escape this curse. I had someone put a curse on me when a very long time ago. And I remember that moment of thinking well, a curse isn't real, right? It's just a made up story. And then you kind of start believing it. And then you kind of, there's something interesting in these things that we don't really believe, but then we can't get out of them. I thought about that the other day. Someone asked me to kind of pose for a photo in a bookstore underneath a ladder. And I'm like, there's a superstition thing about ladders.
Careful.
And I don't believe that. Yeah. But then the photographer was like, yeah, you can go there. And I was like, maybe close to the ladder, maybe to the side of the ladder. There's something about these stories.
Better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly, yeah. And there's something, I've always been fascinated with these stories that try to predict our future. But then, we don't believe them, but at the same time, they influence our lives. So we follow these sisters, Ina, Evelyn, and Anastasia, over the course of 35 years as they try to escape this curse. And one thing that I knew was that they have different ways of finding freedom.
Yeah, I mean, the curse is quite serious, isn't it? Everything you love, you will lose. Can you say whether they get out of that curse, or would that give it away?
Well, ultimately, I think the curse is kind of time, not to put too much pressure on these poor sisters. But I often tell my students, I teach as well creative writing, and in order to get to know our characters, we have to kind of squeeze them a bit, put some pressure on our characters. And one of the things that these sisters, what they deal with is that it's really hard to attach to anything if you feel like if you attach to it, you will lose it. I knew that towards the end of the book, what I knew when I started writing it, was that at some point they would be separated, and at some point they would reach New York, because part of the allure of these sisters, or they spend a long time trying to find their home, and they don't really feel at home anywhere. But they have this idea. They project a lot of dreams onto New York. So towards the end of the book, they reach New York, and that is kind of that's where...
It's the tipping point.
That is where the kind of clue to how real this curse lies. Yeah, so there's an answer there. I hear myself circling it without spoiling, trying not to spoil. But it's, I wrote myself to that moment, when they reach New York, and I wanted also to kind of, I moved to New York 4 years ago with my family, and it was an interesting moment, kind of, that when you have a dream about a place, and then there's
and then the reality.
The reality sets in, that clash.
I noticed you've used the word character a lot, and it seems to me that hearing about some of the other books that you've written as well, character is very much your big thing, isn't it? Yeah. It's the thing that drives you to write, would you say?
I love my characters, and I think you have to allow them a certain sense of freedom in order for them to, take over the book. I remember, so I've been writing for 22 years, and I remember when I started out, I had this, I tried to control my characters. I tried to, map them out in Excel sheets and kind of make sure that they did what I wanted them to do. And now this is my 6th novel, and I realized that once my characters take over and they start to kind of, break the Excel document and take over the story, that's actually a really good sign. So in this book, I had a clear idea of what I wanted these sisters to do, and they were lovingly disagreeing, let's put it that way. Yeah.
Okay. And how much of a reflection do you think are the books on you? You mentioned New York and the fact that you moved there with your family yourself, and that's very much in the book. The other main character of the book is Jonas, same name as you, obviously, who is the son of a Swedish mother and a Tunisian father, the same as you. Is he you, or is he a sort of amalgamation of the thoughts of you? Or...
Yeah, I mean, he's one version of me. One thing that I wanted to explore was if it was possible to write fiction and nonfiction in the same book. So every other chapter is about these fictional sisters, and every other chapter starts with a personal memory that I've been trying to make sense of for a very long time. And then the more you read, you realize that the boundary between what is nonfiction and what is fiction kind of starts to blend. That was one of the things that intrigued me. Another thing was that I was really curious about time. I felt like I was growing older. I had the feeling that time just accelerated. The speed of time just accelerated. So I wanted to see if I could write a book where I captured that feeling. So we follow these sisters. I mean, the book is structured in a kind of special way where we follow these sisters over the course of the first section is like 1 year, then 6 months, then 3 months, then 1 month, then 1 week, 1 day, and 1 minute. So time kind of goes, vroom, kind of speeds up. And I wanted to see if that worked in a book. Yeah.
The themes are vast. I mean, you've said character, you've said time, also places, because it begins, doesn't it, with a chance encounter in Tunis. Then there's scenes involving a fighter jet crash in Stockholm. Then, as you've said, we're on to New York as well. I mean, is that part of what you love creating as well, taking us, if you like, on a bit of a guide around the planet to different places? Yeah,
I love finding meaning in memories that don't seem fictional when I experience them, if that makes sense. We all have these moments in our life where we kind of go, this is not enough. This is not something that I can turn into fiction. And once I write about them, I kind of make sense of them. So part of writing about Tunis, about Berlin, about Stockholm, about New York is just that these places changed me. And then it's an honor to be able to put them into a novel.
And just time to ask you quickly, I mean, where does the writing come from in you? What is it that inspired you initially, if you like, to pick up the pen or computer or whatever it was and start writing?
Always voices, yeah. Just hearing the chatter of these characters, it always makes you sound a little bit crazy, but I think that's also part of the allure of this job, that it is a way to kind of control and befriend people who you wouldn't meet otherwise. So
good way of looking at it. And obviously, you're the right man for the job and in the right job as well, by the sound of it as well. Thanks for coming in to talk to us about it. The Sisters, as we say, is already out. Les Sœurs is about to come out as well. Jonas Hassen Khemiri, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
On France 24.
Thanks.